friends. Welcome again to another episode of HPA Global Insights. Today, we're going to talk about some China regulations. As many of you know, that are in the food industry or dietary supplement industry, China has a regulation that requires foreign manufacturers of food to register their facilities with the GAC or GACC, China's General Administration of Customs. Currently, there's a decree. It's called 248, and that's what's on the books right now, and that's what people are following. But there's a plan to replace it with a new and shiny one called 280. The decree 280 is going to come into effect June 1st, 2026, I believe. If I'm not correct on that, our guest today will let me know. So let me introduce our guest today to talk about this. It's my friend Jenny Lee. She's a lawyer working at Keller and Heckman, and she's based in the Shanghai office. Jenny, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you so much for having me. Hello to your audience, and my name is Jenny Lee. I'm based in Shanghai, and I'm a full lawyer from the Keller Heckman, as Jeff just said. Great to be here with you.
Yes, nice to see you, Jenny. Thanks for your time today in advance. So let's get on to some questions here today. So let's talk first, kind of give us a brief introduction to this new decree 280.
Sure. This is a new regulation published by the Chinese Custom Agency, and it talks about the requirement regarding any company like exporting food to China. It covers like food manufacturers, and also if you are processing food, that is also part of the regulation. And the storage company, they are also subject to this registration requirement. Simply put, if you are exporting food to China, that is a regulation you should be paying attention to.
All right. So, as I mentioned in the beginning there's, some of our members and companies I've worked with, they are aware of this decree 248 and they've had to deal with it now for quite some time. And it's confusing for some people, it's difficult for others. This, from what I understand, this 280 is supposed to be, on paper anyways, it's supposed to be a little easier. Not quite sure, but can you tell us kind of some of the, significant changes or things to look at between the 248 and 280?
Absolutely. Nowadays, like China is really trying to boost the international trade. So the revisions this time is trying to ease the burden of the industry. Previously, there were two types of registration. One is the foreign foods facility that can be registered subject to recommendation by the authority of the home country. And the second type is the industry need to be registered by themselves through application. And under this revision, GAC is established a new system. Like you just need to, any company, you can go file application with GAC by yourself. So it's like, instead of waiting for the authorities' permission and they're trying to, okay, companies, you can do it by yourself. And another big change under the regulation is the sort of like inventory registration, or you call it like a batch registration. That means if the country, let's say US, right, the US government's food safety management system is recognized by the Chinese GAC, um, the US government can send a list of all food companies, right? Processors, food manufacturers, storage companies to the Chinese authority. And through this inventory registration, China will register all the companies on the inventory on that list. So you don't have to do anything through that. But the condition is that the US government needs to talk to the Chinese GAC to come so they can be done quickly as opposed to each company need to file their own applications. And this is new, and I think that's another option China is trying to offer and welcome those authorities around world to start a conversation with China to ease the burden of their companies exporting food.
Oh, well, hopefully the US FDA, you know, cooperates or makes it easy for companies to deal with them so that FDA and maybe even USDA can talk directly to China a little bit more easily. Um, so that's kind of what we're talking about right now is kind of traditional, export, commercial exports. But a big part of our industry, dietary supplements, of course, as you know, is cross-border e-commerce. So does this new 280 decree, does it apply to cross-border e-commerce at all, or does it interfere in any way?
That's a very good question. Because under the new regulation, they're gonna come up with a list of food that still needs a recommendation or the inspection from the home authorities. And in January this year, GAC published a draft list for the food that needs the government recommendation, and the health food is not part of the inventory. So hopefully, if they stick to the draft version, manufacturers, processors of health food, including dietary supplement, they will not subject to the type of company that needs the authority, the home country's authority recommendation. So they can just go ahead with the registration by themselves. I think that is a good news because uh, the spirit of this is they trying to apply the risk-based approach, right? And the dairy meats, they may relative speaking are higher risk. So those are likely to be continued of the inventory that needs the authorities approval from the home country. But health food, if it's the same as a draft, I think it's a great news for the supplement industry because they don't need to prepare more extensive data.
Okay, so if, like I said, if they keep that draft, then those companies will be able to kind of just do it by themselves. They won't need to bother FDA to help them.
Yeah, hopefully, yes. Yes.
Okay.
And the
So
data requirement probably are similar to the previous ones, so they can go 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 back to the existing application requirements, right? To just
yeah, so
let.
I was gonna ask you next. It was like companies that already are used to the Decree 248 and have been doing it and kind of found their way to do it. Is that gonna
Mm,
be, is there gonna be any, like, do you foresee any disruptions or them having to rework everything and be troublesome or?
mm, mm. Um, my view is they may be limited in disruption because according to GAC, they said the system, the current single window system for the registration, they are going to continue to use that and gonna update the system to it more friendly, right? You're gonna see it's already there, and the current registration remains valid. So they will transfer the existing registration into the new one and not like you have to start anything from scratch. It's not like that. But if you happen to be, expired already, the registration during that, like before the June next year, it's a case by case. I think you probably should just to see when is the expiry date of your registration and reach out to the authorities, I mean, your home country to see if there is anything that you need to get prepared for that, including, as we said, hopefully it's not subject to the recommendation by the home country, but go through those existing application material to make sure everything is, you ready for those. And another thing I think is they should talk to the authority at the home country, like you said, FDA or USDA, to get the information as quickly as possible, like keep the conversation going, right? You are knowing what's going on by at the authority and trying to establish a conversation and just pay attention to your own registration. I mean, you need to take care of the, the stuff. Sometimes they were not like proactively reach out to you, right, the authority, but you need to be more proactive
Uh,
for knowing
so,
things.
so you mentioned the I guess like the online portal, like the website for
Right.
this registration is new. So obviously there's English version.
Yes.
But you said is it the website itself is new, the way they've designed it to make it easier? Is that what you're saying? Part of it?
Yes, yes, it
Okay.
will be easier. And for instance, even if, for instance, I'm not exporter, right, or not a food manufacturer, but in the past, you need to log in first to get an account in order to see what are those registered companies. But in the future, according to them, you can just see all those companies. You can do the research. And there will also be like a registration menu or some instructions. It's all there. You don't need to have an account or register on the website. It
Mm.
becomes more transparent. They want, the public and industry to know what's the process data, trying to be more transparent.
Now, China in some cases is notorious for kind of putting a law or a regulation forward and giving very short periods of time for any kind of input or, enough time for the industry to react and kind of, but this seems this one, there's quite a bit of time. I think my introduction there, I said it's going in effect June 1st next year. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
so
right.
we've already known about this for a while. So we're looking at, over 6 months of time before the 248 is gone and 280 starts. So, other than that, is there any other kind of transitional period or, like June 1st starts and those companies that weren't aware, are they going to be in trouble or is there kind of a fade in, like kind of grace period, if you will?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. There's no further like transitional period, so the regulation will become effective in June next year. Uh, the Chinese authority has been in communication with different like trade officers, foreign countries in China. So I believe they are fully aware of this, but still when it comes to the enforcement level, there are still questions, right? Particularly if come to a specific company, if their registration just happen to expire in June or before June, so what they can do some for those type of things.
Mm.
And the GAC suggestion is that you need to know when is your expiry date of your registration and then reach out to the Office of the Food Authority, who is handling the communication with GAC. So they will know, like, have a general assessment. And informally, as far as I understand, from the policy level, the government is really trying to reduce the impact of this registration on companies, industries. And I certainly encourage again, companies should be more proactive, know your own registration and reach out to the authorities at your home country. And if you have a question, because there is a communication channel, for instance, US embassy, right? They have an office in charge of those registration, and they have the channel to talk to the GAC. As I know, they can write the emails, they can phone them to get things done. Instead of like, there is no hotline for,
Yeah.
unfortunately, for individual companies to get things done. But still, there is general GAC inquiry phone numbers. People gonna use trying to get things. It's tough. It's challenging for communication, but still, I think there are some
Sure.
options there, case by
Yeah,
case.
now, the registration, I forget off the top of my head. When you register, how long is it good for?
Under the new regulation, they're going to be 5 years, and the
Yeah.
good thing is that they have an automatic renew system in place under the new law. So
Oh,
when
okay.
you get the registration done under the new regulation, you will see on that portal, you said the registration website, they will say like the automatic renew like after 5 years, you don't need to worry about that. But for some product, it's not subject to the automatic renew. You need to apply like 3 to 12 months ahead of the time. And according to GAC, they will email you. They will put an alert on that web page, like if you are a company, right? There is an account there, and they will say, your registration is gonna to expire through how many months, and please apply for renew something. They said you cannot miss it.
All right, Jenny. So before we wrap this up, let's talk about like the final kind of advice, if you will, for companies that are not aware of this yet, or maybe they are already aware of 248 but not 280. What is your recommendation for companies in the food and the supplement industry?
Yeah. So first thing I think is to know the regulation, right? To read it, and because there are English translation out there, and I know Jeff, you are following this as well. So to get information from you certainly is also a very good option. In terms of like specific thought I have on this, I think it's don't need to be panic. Because as I said earlier, the government is really trying to ease the regulatory burden of the industry because since the implementation of the previous registration, they know the issues. They are trying to fix things by reviving the regulation, right? That's another one. And the last one I think is to check your files to make sure all the information required by China. So get ready. And because the inventory of the food products subject to the recommendation by the Foreign Food Authority remains not published yet. While we believe health food or supplements is not part of this, but still we need to see the final version.
Sure.
And if you are already exporting food, I think you just need to hold tight and to follow the spread of the Chinese GAC to do this. I don't see like a significant disruption. All this it may be because you're not familiar with the regulations. So when you heard about this registration, it feel like it's scary, but nothing much change. It's more like a policy level or the how the government is trying to manage food authorities and the companies. In fact, I may just was mention the authority in other countries in the new regulation. China is trying to impose more burden on the Foreign Food Authority because they need to supervise to ensure the food export to China is comply with the Chinese regulation. But that is less relevant to the industry. But still, when you talk to the authority, I think that some other country may, under their law, they may not have the responsibility or jurisdiction to regulate the food export into other countries, but that's not
Sure.
the concern. No, I just want to share with you this.
Yeah, well, that is a problem over the years of working in China. I've had that problem a lot where China comes out with a regulation for something, and then America, or depending on what country I'm working with, that country does not have that. They don't have that facility. They don't have that document. They don't have
Yeah,
what, like China might require a document
right.
stating something. But for example, the US FDA doesn't have that document and they never provide a document like that before. So there's been some
Exactly.
challenges over the years with
Yeah.
that, of course.
The associations like yours can play a quite important role, coordination between the industry and the government.
Yeah, and you said it. So listen, Jenny said, don't panic, people. Um, you have resources, so you can always contact us directly. I'll put a card at the end of Jenny's contact. You can contact her. If you're a U.S. company, most countries have the same thing the U.S. does, but the U.S. has like export assistance centers that are part of the U.S. Department of Commerce around the U.S. You can contact them, and then they in turn directly contact the U.S. Embassy in Beijing. And that can be a way for you to get some information either through us or through the US government or through your own government, or send an email to Jenny. Folks, thanks.
Yes.
Yeah, Jenny, thank you so much for your time. That was great. And again, we'll have to wait and see, the final kind of regulation, how that turns out, the implementation kind of portion of the regulation to see if supplements are still not on that list. So people can kind of just take care of this by themselves. So thanks again for joining us, Jenny. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Okay, everyone watching, thank you so much. And we will see you next time. Take care. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to HPA Global Insights. Please like, subscribe, and share with your colleagues. Any questions or suggestions, please email us at info@hpachina.org. HPA Global Insights is a nonprofit organization focused on the overall global dietary supplement industry. Please consider joining the association and supporting its endeavors. Your support is very much appreciated. Until next time, take care.